Do I need to turn these on? Are these on? They're on. Okay. Thank you. My name is Hana Whitfield, and just to give you a brief biography, I was a Scientologist and a Sea Org member for over 22 years. I captained 2 of Hubbard's ships and ran many of his organizations. He took on the title of Commodore in 1967, and I served as Deputy Commodore under him in the United States for 2 years. I held many subsequent positions. The account of my personal disillusionment and departure from Scientology is another story, but since I left the group in 1984, my husband and I have helped hundreds of families retrieve their children, their spouses, and their parents from this group. It was our way of giving back, and that work continues. I'm speaking today to offer my insight on this organization. When Hubbard released his first book, Dianetics, and then started Scientology, he created a unique culture, a totalitarian culture, based on his claims, these being that he alone was perfect, he never made mistakes, everything he said and wrote was correct, and he was the source of the only technology that could deliver mankind from its problems. Everyone else was less evolved, or, as he put it, raw meat, and in need of the salvation that only Scientology could provide. All ideas and methods that opposed his own were wrong or evil and had to be destroyed. This same culture permeates Scientology today, and we hear it repeatedly from its spokespersons. Hubbard's policy of always attack, never defend, makes it impossible for the organization to admit wrongdoing, and it is as if Hubbard actually were still alive. It is this culture that has everything to do with what is going on in Scientology today, and it will continue unless other forces can be brought to bear. I joined Scientology in 1965. I did some basic training. I was a registered nurse. I was looking for answers. I went to England and I trained there in 1966 to the highest levels available. And I don't feel so good about it now, but I was clear number 60. Throughout that training, my acculturization to Scientology began. It took the training, it took some processing, it took those experiences, both the knowledge and the personal experiences in the auditing, to make me become a true believer. I now regret the years I spent in Scientology, but there's no going back, so this is a way of helping. Very soon after that, Hubbard started the Sea Project in August of 1967 in Las Palmas. I was one of 35 people invited to join, simply because of my training and expertise level. There was nothing special about me. But 35 of us joined him in Las Palmas to form the Sea Project and to help him better the world and salvage the planet. I found very quickly that he did not live up to his claims in his books and tapes at all. I found he angered easily. He had temper tantrums that went on for hours and hours. Sometimes he would throw things against the side of the ship. I did not see the contradictions at that early time. I did not see, between his writing and his acts, I could not see the contradiction. I was already in love with the ideal that Hubbard presented. I was in love with the goals of his organization. And I was in love with what I thought I could contribute to bettering mankind. And let me tell you that that sets up a state of mind in a person. Well, you know what it's like to be in love. You see nothing wrong with your girlfriend or your boyfriend. They're perfect. It's the same phenomena that happens in Scientology when someone joins. You cannot see the wrong. And that is what is so bad about this organization. And I think, from a retrospective point of view now, that Hubbard knew that, and that's why he set it up the way he did. Hubbard did have some good points. He had many good points. For example, he helped me to achieve the positions I achieved and did in Scientology. However, on the dark side, he also introduced all of us, and indeed he thrust us into his practices of cruelty, inhumanity, abuse, and punishment, all of which he systematically reframed as positive and as requirements for enlightenment. On the ship, he soon appointed me as Master at Arms, which is like an ethics officer, a person in charge of ethics and morals. And my first assignment came very quickly. I received a handwritten note from him about an electrician, an Australian called Terry Dickinson. Terry had failed to get a radio to the ship within a certain period of time. And this order said that Terry was to stay awake until the radio was on board and operating. If he fell asleep, he would never again eat with the crew, talk with the crew, or sleep below deck. He would be literally excommunicated. By that time, we had signed billion-year contracts. So for a naive person, he would be in that state for 1 billion years. I was so shocked. I could not let Terry fail, and I vowed to stay awake with him, because he was my responsibility, for as long as it took to get that radio on board. When it got very bad after the 3rd day, I would sometimes push food down his throat. I would make sure he had water. And in the middle of the night, when he cried and said he could not go on, I made him walk up and down the beach. So I put Terry, I'm guilty, my first little assignment in the Sea Org, of great abuse on Terry Dickinson, and I hope that someday he can forgive me. We did make it, the radio came on board, and I sent Terry off to sleep. During this time, LRH, as we called him, or Hubbard, lived in a villa outside Las Palmas. Yvonne Jench, another Sea Org member, lived with him. She was in charge of his public relations. And Yvonne told me later on that Hubbard many, many times approached her sexually and wanted to have a sexual relationship with her, even though she was married, and even though his wife, Mary Sue, came to visit from time to time. Eventually, to get away, Yvonne requested an assignment ashore, somewhere in an organization away from the ship, and she was sent to Los Angeles to start the first celebrity center. Soon after that, Hubbard appointed me as captain of the 150-foot trawler called the Avon River, and almost immediately OT3 was released. I think you all know OT3, with the body spirits on you and the evil ruler Xenu, who sent us all to this planet. I won't go into the story. All of us were ordered to read the material and apply it. And I opened the pack and I read the material, and I could not believe that I was supposed to apply this to myself. From that point on, until I left in 1984, I struggled with that material. I struggled day by day by day, because I could not apply it. Of course, the fault wasn't Hubbard's, the fault was mine. And I had to keep looking within myself for the fault that was keeping me from understanding the materials and applying them correctly. And that's when my headaches started.